Voices from the Mausoleum is brought to you by the You Run Podcast Network and yourunpodcast.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to another episode. Wow, it's been a while since I've had to do this intro, apparently, of 5 Influential Horror. Very, very excited to be sitting down finally with the very, very infamous, I'll go with, Ruth Anna Evans. I'm so excited to talk to you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I've meant to circle back to ask you to do this numerous times, and then every time I got ready to schedule a bunch, something else would happen, and I'd have to like push it out. So I was so excited we were able to chat because we've been interacting. We've known each other and followed each other for a couple of years now.
Yeah, it's been at least a couple of years. Yeah.
I think we sort of more, like got actually connected back when Tasha and I did Livestock, because you of course donated the cover for that and helped me make you did the bookmark for me because I couldn't make it work. And so that was kind of it, but that was almost 2 years ago.
That was almost 2 years ago. Wow.
You can even believe that.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with the series, it's a series where Steve and I sit and talk to all kinds of horror fans and talk about their 5 most influential horror movies and why they picked them. I was actually going to kind of like summarize or reword like your bio, but I love the way you wrote at least the first part of it specifically. So I'm just going to read it as is before I do like my summary. But Ruth Anna Evans is a horror writer, anthologist, and cover designer who lives in the heart of all that is sinister, the American Midwest. I love that so much. I giggled when I was reading it.
I mean, it's true.
The accuracy. So you've self-published horror collections, Oh Fuck, It Hurts, which we were just talking about a few minutes ago because the cover on that, like you said, kind of sells itself. And No One Can Help You, Tales of Lost Children and Other Nightmares. You're the editor of Ooze, Little Burst of Body Horror, which I've heard terribly good things about. 2 spooky novellas and a medical horror novella, Against Medical Advice. And you are known for loving horror that makes people hurt. Which is a good thing to be known for, I think, in our genre. So it works. So we're going to talk about your influential. All of Ruth Anna's links are going to be in the description for this episode. You can check out the covers that she has available. I have several.
Yes.
And like I mentioned before, she did the cover for Livestock, which was, I mean, like when we were trying to come up with like concepts of like what we wanted, you really just like took that and ran with it. And it's to this day, even still seeing it after this long, it's like a gut punch, which is 100% what we wanted. So it's,
because, I was on the same page as you were, because I was feeling the same things that you guys were feeling. Like they took away our right to an abortion. Yeah. They took away our right to an abortion. Yeah. I felt like Livestock.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. So it was like such a great time, honestly, though, to be connecting with other women in the genre, because that's also when I started getting closer to Cat Velour as well, was around that time in that project. So so it was a really, really good time for us to come together and say what we needed to say or what we wanted to say. So I think I'm trying to think of the ones that are on here. Maybe 3 of your 5 have not been on here before. 2 for sure have.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure 3 of the 5 will be first time discussions, which is always cool. So we'll jump right in. So the first one that you had on your list was The Shining.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and I love the book and the movie. I love them both. My puppy's in in so sorry about that.
Is this the one you got the playpen for?
Yes.
So cute.
She's so bad. She's a very good girl. We love her a lot. She's darling, but she's so bad.
It's just puppiness, right?
Yeah, exactly. So no, The Shining. I love The Shining. I love the characters. I love the plot. I love everything about it. I love the acting. I love the setting. I love how scary it is. And I mean, obviously Shelley Duvall is just epic. Rest in peace. And yeah, it's just the tension in that movie just grows and grows and grows. So I would say not all of these were like super influential over my own writing, but if I have a goal,
Yeah.
my writing, it's definitely for that emotional tension of just like,
Oh
oh
yeah.
my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Yeah. And so did you see I assume you've probably seen the miniseries that they did that came out later. That was The Shining.
A
With
little bit of it, but
I can't think of it was it's not it just it's so hard when you're talking about a film that way, like specifically this one, the Shining. When you're talking about it, it's so hard to like even play in the same game. Like it's not
right.
even in the same, sport, because I used to watch Sci-Fi did a miniseries month all the time. Like it was like March was miniseries month. And so that's when you got to see like all the Stephen King stuff, like this Rose Red, Kingdom Hospital, like all the fun stuff. And they would always show both of them. And I was always like, nah, I'm good. I'll find something else to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are a few miniseries I really, really have loved, like 6 Feet Under. I don't know if you've watched 6 Feet Under,
Oh no, I
but
haven't seen that one.
like
Yeah.
that was a really, really great miniseries. And of course, like Game of Thrones was good. And then, but in general, I'm not really a miniseries person. I
Yeah.
like to watch a movie or like a show.
An actual, yeah.
Yeah, like I watch a lot of like documentary reality TV type stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that The Shining ends up like coming up a lot when you talk to horror fans in general too, because it's not just like it doesn't just impact you as a viewer, it's impacted the genre as a whole. Like people still debate this movie. There's still people writing papers. There's,
Yeah.
there's documentaries about how this movie was made and all of the things that went into it. Because it is very different from, I've only actually read 2 Stephen King books because full disclosure, I know like I may lose my horror fan card over this, but like I really am not a big fan of his writing.
That's okay.
I love his stories. I just
Right.
don't like the way he tells them. And so, so I've read The Shining and I've read Pet Sematary. Those are the only 2, of the books. I need to eventually read Carrie because Carrie's like one of my favorite horror movies of all time. So one day I need to go back.
It's
and
really
read that.
short, if that helps.
Yeah, it was one of the first, was it not?
It was the first one that made his name. Yeah.
Yeah, because he threw it away and his wife found it and was like, no, like you should do something with it. Yeah.
He hated The Shining. I don't know. You probably knew that, but he didn't like the movie, which I think is really interesting because I love them both. And it's like, I don't see that much of a disconnect between the book and the movie. I know the ending is a little bit different, but
different.
endings change.
Well, it's an adaptation, right? So there's always going to be.
Yeah, but I thought the tension, like the important bones of the story were like read pretty similar to me. So I find it really interesting that he didn't like it.
He had strong opinions. And I think wasn't one of his issues like he really didn't like Jack Nicholson. Like I feel like, and that may not be 100% true. I might have just pulled that out of nowhere, but I don't know how I had remembered either hearing or seeing it. So I'm not sure, but yeah, it's it's
so
got enough. Yeah, I don't know, but it's like it is enough different, but I think it's no different than most like book to film or book to show adaptations. There's always like all kinds of variations and things. And sometimes they're good and sometimes it's not good that they're different. But I think this works really well. Like the addition of the twins works really well. And some of those things that, like you said, don't really change the bones of the story, but they add to the tension or they make spooky moments or whatever. I think it's really
well. And like the characters, the of course I'm not going to remember his name, but the cook, like they were different types of characters in the book versus the movie, but they were both the same quality of character. They were both fully fleshed out, like really important, good characters. So they're neck and neck for me.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I don't know that I know anybody that doesn't feel like that, because I think most people I know are really big fans of The Shining in general, and I'm pretty sure all of them have read it and feel pretty similarly to what we're talking about now. I feel like it's held in really high regard. I I only know of one person that ever called it boring, and I was like,
Hmm.
I feel like you're making that up. And then went on a rewatch, was like, okay, I don't know why I thought that. And I'm like, yeah, because it's like not boring. Like it's like it
I mean, there's
starts
so many
out,
good scenes.
and even the scenes where nothing happens, right? So
Yeah.
much is happening. Like there's
Yeah.
never like, from the way that it's shot to the, just everything about it, like is
Mhm.
so intense all the time, and you're constantly waiting to
Mhm.
see like what is this next thing going to be.
Exactly.
But
Like that scene where they're sitting and watching cartoons and he's playing with something and he's like, "Can I go get my truck?"
yes,
And you're like, "Oh, don't, no. Don't
every
let him
time
go
you
get
watch
his
it,
truck."
yeah,
Yes. Yeah, so you're right. Even the like everyday normal things that should be everyday and normal are just so ominous. It's
yeah,
just brilliant.
yeah. The overlook makes you not trust it. There's an
Mhm.
immediate sense of distrust, so you're just like something's about to happen, like every time.
Yeah,
And
it's just not safe. It has this
it,
feeling of
yeah,
not safe.
no, definitely not safe. Yeah, I love talking about The Shining. I haven't watched it probably yet this year. I usually watch it at least once a year.
Mhm.
No particular time. It's just one that I try to revisit whenever
Mhm.
I can. But it's really good. And honestly, I really like Dr. Sleep. I have not read the book,
Mhm.
but I thought that that movie, given the differences, right? Because they essentially made it match the movie. With being able to go back to the hotel and all of that, because in the book it burns down at the
Right.
end of the first one. And so like, I felt like it was just this very, for them to be so far apart time wise, right? Because
Mhm.
the book came out in like 2018 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was like, it still felt like a super seamless story, and it was like
Mhm.
really, really well done.
I thought it was really well done too. I didn't like that movie, but not for a fair reason. Like
Oh,
I didn't like the child torture scene. Um,
that one was rough for me too.
yeah, and it's not like that's just testament to that they did it well.
Sure.
Um,
I would agree with
so,
that. Yeah.
but I wouldn't watch it again, and I walked away from it with like a bad taste in my mouth because I just like so didn't enjoy that.
Yeah, I actually fast forwarded that part,
Mhm.
because I had read prior to watching, because I was late to the game watching it. It had been out for a
Mhm.
while when I watched it. Um, I had read an interview or something where King was talking about when he saw like the original cut of it. And he said that the Tremaine, which is the kid's name in real life that played the little boy, the little baseball player, he's great, by the way. He's in another movie called Can't Don't Wake Before I Wake, something like that. He's super good in that too. It's a horror movie about sleep and dreams, and it's really good. But he's great, but he's too great. Like it started to get too believable, and I had to skip
Mhm.
it. But he apparently told them they needed to tone that scene down because he couldn't
Oh
get through it
wow.
with his wife. And so this was in an interview. So I thought, okay, baseball boy, I need to remember that, because post having children, I can't do stuff like that anymore. I tried to watch the remake of Pet Cemetery, and I saw the
Mm.
very first truck before anything happens, and I was like, "Ooh, forgot about that." I
Ooh.
turned it off. I was like, "Can't I know I can't do it. It'll totally mess me up. I will not be able to watch it." And so I had to fast forward that scene. I do agree. That was a lot
Yeah,
for me.
I wish that I had fast forwarded that scene because otherwise I think I really would have liked that movie.
Yeah. It's hard to shake scenes like that though, like
Mhm.
in general, because
And like I
I
said,
feel.
I mean, that just means they did a good job.
Mhm.
So it's not a criticism of the movie, it's more of like
No,
a
I know.
personal
Yeah.
experience of the movie.
Yeah, and that's why when I was reading all the stuff about You're Against Medical Advice, I was like, "I'm not gonna be able to read that book." I don't know if I'll ever be able to get through it because,
No.
I had like, and I only know, what I've read about it so far, right? So it's like, but like having gone through things, like I had a niece that had cancer when she was 2 years old.
Mm.
She passed away. I
Oh
have
my
a son
goodness.
that's only 6. Like, I'm just like, I don't think I can do this book. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get through it.
Yeah.
So, but
Well,
I
it's
think it takes a lot to write that stuff. So
well, see, the thing is, like, the stuff I write, I can't read. I don't I don't
oh,
read.
that's interesting.
No, I if somebody were to present my book to me, I'd be like, that's a little heavy, don't you think?"
I was kind of thinking that when you were talking about the scene in
It's
Dr. Sleep,
yeah.
I was like, but don't you write?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I would totally write that scene, but I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't read it if somebody else wrote it. But lots of
love that.
people do read that stuff, so I write it for them.
Yeah. No, it's true. There's a place for everything, a home for all kinds of, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think it's like sick or twisted or anything like that to
Right.
write
It's
and
just not
create.
what you specific. Well, and
It's too scary. It's too scary. That's why I'm writing. I'm writing it to get it out of my head. I
it's
don't want to put
cathartic.
somebody
Yeah.
else's scariness in my head. I'll be like legitimately having some sort of existential crisis.
Yeah. I can't even like, I thought about like, I've had multiple shorts ideas for
Mhm.
things that involved like children and stuff. And I always talk myself out of it. I'm like, don't do that to yourself. Because I don't even think I could write it. I really don't, because I get so in my feelings about it. I get like really, and it's like you said with that one scene in this, I've seen scenes like that in movies with children. I just like it lingers. Like I watched
Mhm.
one movie. It was an A24 movie. I cannot remember which one it was. They Come at Night. It Comes at Night. Something like that. But there was a very rough scene at the end of the movie, and I like had to go lay on the floor next to my son's crib while he slept. Like I was so upset about it. It took me
Yeah.
days to shake that feeling, and that's
Yeah.
too much for me. Yeah.
I think I kind of had that feeling when in Supernatural when the baby was like killed. Oops. Can we do spoilers on here? Sorry.
Probably fine. If it was like
It's Supernatural, so
yeah. Yeah. That's
yeah, so it was like but I've written so many dead babies that I don't even know which one of them is in which story anymore.
yeah, and I think it's like it's one of those things like sometimes in film it's just a shock value thing, but when it's done well, it just it hurts in a way that like
Mhm.
if you didn't know that was coming, like you're not
Yeah.
prepared.
Yeah. Well, there's a story that if somebody doesn't mind that kind of thing, the saddest story I have is called Everything You Love Is Gone. And it's about a mom who she's pregnant and she
Mhm.
has a little girl who's like 8, and there's a hurricane and it floods and her little girl is washed away in the flood, and then she goes into labor and like everything she loves is gone. It's all gone.
Oh my God.
So she loses her daughter, she loses the baby. Like it's just then. But I wouldn't want to read that. But it's just when I write it, I'm just like,
Right. That's crazy to me. Yeah, I don't think I could do that kind of stuff. I avoid kid stuff is just so hard for me. But
Mhm.
I would be the same way about essay though. I can't read explicit scenes about that either. Like it
Oh
has to
yeah,
be kind of
but
the behind the closed doors kind of,
mhm.
like it
Yeah,
happened.
I can't
Okay.
write it. Yeah,
No,
can't write it, can't read it, and it's
can't
like
watch it. I cannot
yeah,
be in my media.
yeah.
It's too much.
And it's not that I can't. I choose not to.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah.
I could read it. I could watch it. I don't think I would be like damaged or like substantially triggered by it.
Yeah.
I just don't enjoy it. It's not
No.
something that tickles my fancy.
Mm-mm. Yeah, it's not for me either.
Yeah, and in my books, there's just like it's implied sometimes.
Yeah, and
That's
that's
as
I
far
can
as I
handle
go.
that. I
Yeah.
can process that.
Yeah.
But like I tried to read what was that book called? All the stains the stains that remain or whatever by Ross Jeffrey.
Mm-mm.
Those stains remain. Only the stains remain. And I knew going into it, it was like a super sad book. And I knew that it had like child abuse and stuff. But the level of detail, I was like,
Mm.
like, this is rough. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
and it was 2 children. And then it was like told from like the perspective of when one of them was a grown up because only one survived. And I was like, oh, but it had like child molestation and stuff in it. And I was like, oh, I can't do this. This is rough.
Hold on. Sorry.
Exactly.
Sorry.
No, you're okay.
You edit.
Well, you know what? Every time I do something with Tasha, Journey, or Ripley coming, you know what? We love animals here. It's totally fine. Totally
She's just
fine.
a hot mess. She's a little baby.
Yeah, just a baby. I just uploaded a video recently where like when I was sitting in the other direction where I was like trying to have like this conversation about movies and the kitten just like climbed up around and I was like, what is happening? And he's like behind
Oh,
me and then he was like coming down and then he was like trying to bite my feet. And I'm like, oh my God, go somewhere else right now.
did you say kid or kitten? Because it could work either way.
That's valid. Yeah. No, kitten.
Kitten. So and
Yeah.
it worked until you got to the biting of the feet, and then I thought
Maybe not kid.
maybe
Who
maybe not kid after all.
Verdict's out. Who knows, right? Like
I mean, I don't know your kid.
kids do weird stuff. That's true. Yeah, no, it's the kitten that I got around the same time actually that you got your pup.
Yeah.
I almost
Adorable.
named him Riley.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a good name. What did
It's
you name him?
I went with Giles. So his name's Rupert.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Love
Rupert
Giles.
Giles. Yeah. So
Yes.
I call him Rupee. My son calls him all kinds of things. Who knows? But he's gonna have an identity crisis.
I think all cats have a minimum of 5 names.
It's so yes, all of my cats have a bunch of names. It's very true. I don't know why we do that to them, but they stick around anyway. They don't try to leave too often. So
It's the food.
that would keep me around too. I am also motivated by food.
Yeah, me too.
I'm basically a house pet. I just want to sleep and be fed snacks. That's the desire. And
Yeah.
pets are mandatory. Yeah, so this one I'm going to go in the order that you sent, but this one was actually the one that I think I was the most intrigued to talk about because I don't think it's been on here before, but we have vastly different opinions on this one.
Okay.
And that is the found footage movie Creep.
I rewatched it
Yeah.
right before I got on here,
Yeah.
and it's still great.
Yeah.
It's still great. It's fantastic. It's so good.
Yeah. Everybody says that.
You didn't like it?
Okay, so couple of like things about this specific movie. I've only seen it one time. Okay. And it was like when it first came out, the company I had at the time I watched it was like super negative about it the whole time. And it is honestly on my list to revisit on my own to see if that, because that happens. Like
yeah,
what your experience when you're watching a movie can absolutely affect how you felt about it.
right.
But I think I am like, it kind of falls under like my least favorite subgenre of found footage, which is like people found footage. Like my favorite subgenre is anything paranormal, or monsters or like that, like supernatural kind of stuff. So the people ones that are about people, as scary as that genuinely is, because it's real, it's very realistic. It's not out of the realms of possibilities. It does tend to be judged harsher by me because I prefer the other type of found footage.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, it's just a matter of taste.
Yeah. I do love the bleak ending though. Jesus, when he's standing behind him with the axe, that's brilliant. That's
the sound
so
that it
good.
makes. I want to know what sound effect they did. Like, was it a watermelon? Like, what did they do to get that thump? Because whoever was responsible for that thump did it just right. That was the sound of an axe cutting through a skull into the brain.
So good. Yeah, that scene by itself is like, first of all, it's iconic, but it's just like, I really, really, there's just so many things like before that I just, at the time of watching it, I just couldn't get behind. Like the concept I think is super strong. You know, there's, he's paying him to do something, which he's not actually paying him to do that, but he thinks he's going to. So he goes out and he's like, oh, I'm going to do this video because I'm dying of cancer. This is for my family, blah, blah. But like when they get to Tubby time, I'm like, why are you still there, homie? Like,
yes, but it's his character flaw. He's too nice. He's too, like, I noticed as I was watching it, because that was kind of my thing the first time I watched it too. I was like, I would just leave. But there's two things about that. First of all, like, that's his character. He's like very go with the flow.
Sure, that's fair.
Doesn't want to say no, doesn't want to upset. Just So that's, you know, a lot about him based on the fact that he doesn't leave right then. And you
Yeah.
know he's really in for it because like this guy makes himself so appealing and so like hard to say no to that he's
Mhm.
playing right into this guy's weakness.
He
So
is.
I
Yeah.
liked that about it. And then the
Yeah.
other thing I liked about the fact that you're like, well, why doesn't he just leave right
Mhm.
away? Is like that's a whole slasher thing, you know?
It is.
That's a whole haunted house thing. That's a whole horror trope
It's a
right there.
trope. Yeah.
You know, the why don't you just leave
Yeah.
and but you have that feeling, like you have that overwhelming feeling of like leave.
Yeah, because you do genuinely worry for him once,
Mhm.
because we as viewers already know most people's experience anyway, unless you went in like completely blind. But initially, like you're like, this is like you're looking for those things because as the
Mhm.
viewer, you know that this is not what it seems. And
Right.
so when those little things like the act when he's like, oh, did you think about if I kill you with this or whatever it is he
Mhm.
says, you're just like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, it's creepy. It's creepy. And it's
Yeah.
like it's obvious to us because it's a movie.
Right,
But
exactly. We're an outsider. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
No, for
I
sure.
agree with that. But I really liked that I found myself going, leave,
Mhm.
because like it's nailing that when you're
Yeah.
shouting at the screen, leave. I mean, how many movies have we watched with that trope that weren't as effective as that?
But more than are effective for sure,
Yeah.
because most of the time it completely it takes you out of it because you're just like, this is dumb. Like no real world person would do this. Like,
Mhm.
and when you get to that point where you forget you're even watching a movie, it's like, it feels like it's just too, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it's and then the scene where the guy is in the wolf mask in front of the door, blocking the door, and the character is just like standing there, like asking him politely to let him go. You're like,
He's like, he doesn't know what else to do. He's like,
I think you're gonna have to get a little bit more serious than that, my
yeah,
dude.
man, like, that's not gonna work. You know what it kind of and I know that in this situation, we're talking about a male interacting with another male, but it kind of reminds me of, like, what I've seen done too when, like, women feel like they have to be nice to get out of uncomfortable situations, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what it felt like role reversal almost, where it was
Mhm.
like a man was put in that position where, like,
Right.
you had to play nice or it was curtains,
Yeah.
and it's like because that's what it felt like to me, and that's what I think about is, like, that thing where like you watch movies or I don't know so much about books that I can think of off the top of my head, but definitely movies where people, especially women, will play along to try to get
Mhm.
themselves to safety.
Right.
And that's what he's doing. He's like, just like, we can just, it's fine. Everything's fine. You just have to be, just let me go, please. Like,
Yeah, what is your goal here? To terrify me? I'm terrified.
I'm terrified.
I love that. That was such a good line. I'm fucking terrified. So you can let me go now. And the guy's just like in that mask, just
Not
like
say, yeah,
just
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
so creepy.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen the second one. Have you seen the second one?
I have, but it wasn't particularly memorable, or
No?
I was half asleep, or I
Okay.
I remember it started, and I remember really liking the beginning, and
Okay.
then I don't remember anything that happened. And
Oh,
that could just be my like
yeah.
brain not
Yeah.
working,
Yeah.
or it could be that it was a while back and I've slept since then. But
Right.
yeah, I don't remember very much about it, and that kind of tells me
Yeah.
a bit about it.
Yeah, and then they just announced that they're gonna do more with it, where it's
Ooh,
gonna be like, the impression that I got was that it's gonna be almost like an anthology, so it's gonna be like missing tapes that were of the things, that he's done to other people, because obviously, like, this is like an ongoing thing, and
right.
so, that I am actually quite interested in.
I'll watch
Um,
it. I'll watch anything they do in the
yeah, universe, the world.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be curious to see what they do. I'm gonna have to rewatch the first, and then the completionist in me, I'll have to watch the second before I watch whatever new stuff they do. But
Mhm.
I mean, I really will be curious. I'll have to circle back to you after I revisit and see if my
Yeah, watch
opinions
it
on
again
it.
because I mean there's some really cool filmmaking stuff things that happen, like I would call it has some of the best sound effects of a movie that I've watched. Like, and I don't really like. I'm not a buff where I worry about sound effects and score and all
Oh
of
God,
that.
no, me either. But that usually means that it's even more impressive when you notice
Yeah,
it.
it was really impressive because like a
Yeah.
lot of the sounds were very abrupt and
Yeah.
grating.
Yeah.
And they were just like really on point with what was happening in the action. Like the sound effects really heightened
Yeah.
the sense that something was wrong.
Yeah.
And I thought that was impressive. So when you watch it again, pay attention to the sound effects.
I will. Yeah, I need to revisit. I hope my hope is so Hereditary was another one that I absolutely just hated for similar reasons. Like the
Yeah.
experience of when I watched it, not super great, but I just didn't get it. I was like, I don't understand why everybody's losing their minds about this movie. But so I revisited it and not that long ago, like last year, I think. And my opinion did change. Now it didn't like I still don't really get it, but like
Mhm.
I can see some of the things that people were talking about that I didn't really see the first time around. So I'll be curious to see where Creep falls on this because
Mhm.
it's one of like so many people on Twitter tease me about Creep because I'm known for like not liking it. So like random people, like if you ever see somebody randomly post a gif of Peach Fuzz or whatever his name is for no reason, that's why they're doing it because they
Good
know.
memory.
Yeah, that's right. And but yeah, so yeah, Creep is one I do intend to revisit and give another chance.
You have to let me know what you think when you watch it again.
I will. No, 100%. I'll probably text you while I'm watching it. I'll be like,
Yes.
oh, like a live, like a not a live tweet, but like a live text where it's like moment by moment.
Yes, do it.
Yeah. Yeah, so your third one is one of my most influential movies. It's like a part of my personality, I think. And that's Blair Witch.
Of course. I mean, how could I not? I mean, I know it's probably been talked about over and over and over again, but if you ask me for 5, Blair Witch is going to be on there.
Yeah, and it should be on everybody's list.
Yeah, duh. No, my daughter, so in our house, my husband is more the horror movie buff than I am.
Oh,
But
okay.
I have my films that I love. And
Yeah.
so my daughter trusts his take on
Sure.
horror movies. They watch horror movies together and everything. And I could not get her to watch Blair Witch. Like I had to
Okay.
harass her and harass her and harass her. And finally we watched it about 2 months ago. We watched Blair Witch together
Okay.
and she loved it. And I was
yes.
Yay!
Recruit more for the Blair Witch cult. Yeah, like
So I was so happy to get to share with her that, and she
that's
really
a great
enjoyed
memory.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's great.
I think Blair Witch is something that can bring people together.
Yeah, and it's like it turns 25 this year. Yeah. So great year to show it to her because it turns 25 this year. So it's not out yet. Is it out yet? No, it's not out yet. I did checking in like, Blair Witch 25 years later with another channel. Like they were like, hey, we know you love Blair Witch and found footage. You want to do that? I'm like, yeah, duh. And so I got like and I think you probably can tell by things I post, and I think most people know this by now. I very much welcome differencing of opinions or different opinions. Like I'm good with that. I can talk about a movie I hate
absolutely.
with like somebody that, loved it. Like I can do that. And it can be a respectful, fun, engaging conversation. Doesn't have to be shitty, doesn't have to get ugly, none of those things. But I do have a couple of movies that I cannot talk about with people that don't hold them in high regard. And The Blair Witch is one of them. And 2 of the 3 other people I recorded this episode with were like, no, it was kind of boring. It doesn't really hold up. And I was like, I gotta go. Like I can't.
Did
I
they
can't
see
be
the
a part
ending?
of it.
Did they see the ending? Did they see the tent? Did they hear the screaming? Did they see the little things on the trees?
I don't get it, Ruth Anna. They were literally like, no, it was boring. And all it was, oh, hi.
Okay. She was begging.
No, you're totally fine. Oh,
There she
sweet
is.
baby. She's getting big, I feel like.
Oh my
Bigger,
gosh.
bigger, right?
So big.
Yeah. Look
So
at those
big, but she's
ears.
still
Oh my
a
goodness.
baby inside. So she's this big lumbering baby. Here you go. Don't bite me.
Aw.
Oh, she just got my notebook. Okay, please don't tear that up. That's my life.
Oh
I need my
no.
notebook.
Uh-oh.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine.
No, I can't imagine thinking it was boring. I mean,
Isn't that insane?
Did they watch it after watching a bunch of other found footage?
Well, so one of them is not a super big found footage person. And one of them is like super into found footage, but I feel like sometimes just goes against the grain just to be different, just to be whatever. And so, but I'm telling you, like sitting on camera though, because I wear everything like right here. I was literally like, do not make the faces that you want to make as they talk. Just let them talk. It was so hard though. I was like, how dare you like say these things about this?
It started the genre. Like, I'm sure there were other things before that, but as far
this
as
pushed it into the
popularizing
mainstream. Yeah, this pushed it into the mainstream. And it's like so many found footage movies are inspired by this film. Like, stop right now with that negativity. It was so hard because this one and there's a couple others that I genuinely like I cannot openly discuss. Like, if you don't love it as much as I do, it's really fine, but we cannot discuss it. Skinamarink is another one that I loved. And so like, and Kat and I cannot talk about that one. We cannot, like, it cannot come up in conversation. We cannot talk about it. I just like, but, and my response to most people, like I had like a friend of mine was like, oh, you know, like, I just didn't get it. And I said, you know what? I'm actually very happy for you that you don't get it, because that means that your childhood didn't look like mine. And that's really good. And I'm really glad, you know, but it was like one of those things where I was like, I can't talk about this movie. And so when they were like going on and on and on about the Blair Witch not being how it was boring, and I was like, you're boring, you know? Like,
well,
you
I mean,
can't. I was so offended. Like I made the movie. I was so offended.
Like you made the movie, exactly.
I was so mad, but it's like it's such a great film.
I need help.
It's such a great movie, and it's so God, it really goes to show what you can do with nothing, you know? Like, I mean, really, and when I learned, you know, because I kind of was late to the game watching it, but when I learned about all the things they went through when I got older, it made me love it even more. Like,
what did they go through?
So like one of the things, so their food rations were lowered as they filmed on purpose.
Really?
Their water intake was lowered. They were sent out like without contact. So like they had radios and they had like a safe word. But other than that, it was a lot of improv in the woods. And there was like one incident in particular where it had like heavily rained. And so like their like little campsite or whatever, because the film crew they kept their distance so that they could just do the scenes at whatever. And so there was one time in particular where they got separated. They were too far apart and it rained heavily and their whole everything flooded and they were like getting stuck in the mud and they couldn't get out. They couldn't find where to go. And they just walked and walked and walked until they found somebody's house. And then they had to use that person's phone to call the film crew and be like, where the fuck are you guys? Like we just went through all of this, like all of our stuff is drenched in mud and muck. And like, they were like, all right, well, when you're ready to film again, let us know. Basically, like they went through a lot.
That's pretty awesome.
And so to me, it just adds even more love and respect for the film, because it's like, they really went through it to make this film happen. And I love that.
Yeah. I love like how authentically they nailed the fear. Like the type of fear that they had is the type of fear you would have if you were lost. Like this frantic feeling, but you don't have anything to do with your franticness except walk. Like what direction can you run in? There's no direction to run in.
Right.
There's nobody to run from. There's nothing. Nobody's going to hear you if you scream. No. Like there was nothing. And yet the whole time they were just surrounded by normalcy, just trees, water,
nothing out. Yeah, exactly. No,
just totally normal.
Right.
And yet like it was just bloody terrifying.
No.
And then the ending, like the ending.
Mm-mm.
So good.
So good. And that's the arguments I made on this episode. That when it comes out, I'm going to be like clipping and sharing. Could be like, because I definitely, when my time came, I let them I said what I needed to say. They were like, oh, and Heather just keeps filming and she doesn't say, and it's just so, I'm like, she addresses why she's filming though. She says it on camera. She says it has to do with it being a break from the chaos, from the uncontrollable, from it. Like, there's like a whole like 2-minute thing about why she's filming. What do you mean you don't know why she's filming?
Yeah.
If you're in this insane,
and she's a filmmaker.
And that too, it's like it's an intrigue. It's like it's autopilot. I think in times of crisis, we do things on autopilot sometimes, but also like humans naturally don't like to not be in control of things. And so if you're literally surrounded by things you can't control, but this you can control, it makes perfect sense on the psychological side of things. And thankfully, one of the guys was like, yeah, no, you're right. It does. It makes perfect sense, and they're like, oh, and all they did was argue. I was like, you're telling me that if you were in the woods like this, in these circumstances, with two people that you were that close to, storyline wise, you wouldn't be screaming at each other?
Yeah.
I can't think of a single person. And I love people I have a lot of love and respect and admiration for people in my life. But if you put me with two other people that I love in the woods, it's going to get ugly fast.
Yeah, especially when somebody got us lost.
Yeah. Oh my God. When he says he threw the map away, even now,
I get cinematic moment.
I get so angry every time I watch that scene. I'm like, this motherfucker. I was so mad. Like,
yeah. But I mean, they were already lost. So
that's also very true. But it was like, it's like holding on to that shred of hope that it was going to make a difference. Yeah, no, I love the Blair Witch. And I love that this is so you mentioned this when you sent the list, that it's super found footage heavy, which I mean makes me happy because I love that's my favorite.
I love found footage. I did have an alternate I was gonna switch out for one of the found footage ones, but I was like, no, that's okay. But I was gonna pop Rosemary's Baby in there.
Oh, that's a good one.
So it's neck and neck with Rosemary's Baby and As Above, So Below.
Yeah. Okay. So that would have been interesting on this list, particularly. That's a great one.
If I had to say which one was more of like an actual influential, like relates to what I would do, I would probably lean more towards Rosemary's
Baby.
Yeah. Because that really is similar to what I actually do.
Okay. Yeah. 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 Cause you just said your fourth one is As Above, So Below, which is on my top 10 found footage movies. It's
so good. It's so good.
So good.
It's the filmmaking for that one for me is just like how they made it look found footage and real when it was all this unreal stuff. So I don't know how they did that, but it just like it looked so like somebody was just shooting it with a camera. But it was like, the room that went into the other room that was just like the room and the figures in the dark and
the car on fire.
That was the one I was thinking about too. The car on fire.
That one is so well done. Like, and to your point, they all are. Like, I love the hooded figures. I love when I forget the camera guy's name, but when he falls because of the jump scare of the woman with the baby and like the kid, I'm not good with character names. I could watch a movie 100 times. I don't know who anybody is, but the guy whose brother drowned when he was a child and you see him under the,
and yet it's found footage. So
it's like they did such a great job of it. And it's definitely higher budget found footage compared to, like Blair Witch, for example. Right. But I didn't mind that it was so clean because the concepts and the execution were so strong. And I actually really loved the story. The story for me was like, so this is like a bit of a stretch because the two things are not related. But one of my favorite, it's not one of, it's my favorite, the favorite anime that is like my old, like I will never love another anime as much as I love this one. It's Full Metal Alchemist. And they talk about the Philosopher's Stone and they talk about alchemy and they talk about these things. And so like, when I'd never seen anything else that talked about that subject matter before. So the very first time I sat down to watch As Above, So Below, and she said Philosopher's Stone, I was like, oh, I'm in it. Whatever happens, because the war. it's so cool. Like the
Yeah.
concepts are so cool. And no, it's such a great film. And the ending is so bananas. Like,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
it's
I
I don't
love the ending, and because it's like you don't know what's going to happen the whole way through,
know.
and so yeah, I liked the ending too. But for that one, the reason I have it on there is just probably cinematography. Just
Yeah.
just the cinematography of that movie is better than almost anything I've seen.
Yeah, it's and again, to be found footage speaks
Mm,
volumes because you just can't they just don't make them like that often. Very
right.
few examples of ones that pull this off that well, looking this clean but still sticking true to the found footage subgenre is really just like it's super impressive. And I God, every time, and it's another one, and we talked about this with I think a couple of the other ones already, but this is another one where, I can watch this 100 times and I
Mhm.
react the same way to every scene every time I rewatch it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like there's little elements that, the fact that he doesn't want to go down there and he ends up down there even though he doesn't want to go down there. Like
Mhm.
that's just like a really great moment, really great filmmaking moment because you're like, well, now he's trapped.
Yeah, because they're
And
running from the police, and then he's like, he has no choice.
yeah, so it was even before anything creepy started happening,
You're just like,
he's
oh
already
no,
trapped, and then they're in catacombs and they're trapped there, and
no
like
good.
just the setting was really, really good. And I
Ugh,
just love it.
no, it's great. It's such a great film. It's and for there to be honestly as many pieces to the story as there is, and it still feel like a cohesive plot,
Mhm.
I think is also really impressive because
Mhm.
sometimes, particularly in found footage, filmmakers are really guilty of trying to execute too many ideas and it makes it convoluted and hard to understand. You're like, I don't know what I'm watching.
Mhm.
And this definitely yanks you in a bunch of different directions, but I never felt confused or lost by what was going on. Not one time
Yeah,
in the entire film.
because it was just one concept. The
Right.
concept was they were stuck underground and it was super freaky.
Yeah. A lot of weird stuff, which is perfect. Like the catacombs are like a bucket list thing. I would love to go see them. Not to that extent, obviously. I'm not trying to sneak in no catacombs, but like to go see the parts that you're allowed to see that are safe. That's like I would love to go. I would love to go see those because I just think it's crazy,
That
super
would
super sad and just overwhelmingly depressive. But it's still a crazy thing to see, and I'd love to see it in
I mean,
person.
they're dead now, they don't care anymore.
Yeah, it's a little late for yeah. They've probably all been reincarnated because that was like a long time ago.
Probably.
Um, but yeah, no, I love As Above, So Below. Which I this was one I'm pretty sure has not been on this show before.
Oh, really?
I think it's Creep, As Above, So Below, and then your last one. The Shining has been, and Blair Witch has been. Um, but yeah, your last one hasn't either, which is Sixth Sense.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that one hasn't been. It's not like,
I love that.
like
Yeah,
the most amazing movie ever made because it is, it's a Hollywood style movie.
that's
Um,
true. That's fair. Yeah.
but I love Hollywood.
Yeah.
I really like a well-produced movie
Yeah.
with, talented actors and a really solid plot. And I just
Mhm.
feel like it's just like a super solid movie
Mhm.
with a great twist. And
Oh,
then
yes.
also, it was my first horror movie. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
mm,
That's fun.
it was my first horror movie.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
that's crazy for that to be like wow. I'm
Yeah.
processing. That's crazy because
It's a
like
great first horror movie.
it's PG-13, yeah?
Probably.
I think it's PG-13.
Yeah, I
Well,
wouldn't be surprised.
It's M. Night Shyamalan too, so it's very
Yeah.
like that was his wasn't his first film, but it was the first film that kind of put him on the map because people
Mhm.
were like, "Oh my god, the twist and the ending in that," and it was relatively scary. Like, so I saw it when it first came out. So I was little when this came out, I think, little enough that I distinctly remember not wanting to sleep in my own room the night that I watched it. Like I
Mhm.
remember that vividly. I
Yeah.
can picture myself in POV getting out of bed and going to check and see if my parents were still awake because like them being awake was more comforting than them being in bed.
Yeah,
And so
I
I
mean, that's
remember,
a real horror movie. If it gives you that feeling that night you watch it and you don't wanna go in your
yes,
bed and you're, like, pulling the co that's a real horror movie. It's
yeah.
very effective.
it's hard to find those now. Like most things, I can still appreciate horror movies, but as far as like being genuinely scared, that doesn't happen super often anymore. I think I'm a little desensitized, but that one scared the hell out of me when I saw it. I was very scared of it. And then because the next movie I saw by him was The Village, which is not the same type of like
No.
totally different situation as far as like the scare, right? It's more
Right.
like suspense. I wasn't scared of The Village. I was scared of
No.
Sixth Sense. So
Yeah.
it was different. Actually, like I may just have to rewatch all these because I just rewatched Signs for the first time in like
Did you?
years, and I love that movie like so much. Do I love that movie? And I was laughing, and so when Tasha did her influential horror, Signs was on her list. And so when I went to watch it, I sent her a picture. I was like, "Guess what I'm watching?" And I was like texting her, and I was like, "Why did I not remember how funny this movie is?" Like I laughed so much more, probably because I get the jokes
Really?
now, and I didn't get them back then, but.
Oh, I need to watch that again too because I don't think I remembered it being funny either.
I didn't I just remember being traumatized by the alien at the birthday party. That's like the scene.
Oh my God, it's been like 20 years since I've seen that movie.
Scary.
Yeah, so,
Signs. I just rewatched Signs. It's on HBO.
Oh, is it? I don't have HBO, so
I think it's HBO.
that's okay. I can probably rent it on Amazon.
It's actually one of few that I
We
own.
have it. Of course we have it. We have all of them.
I own that one too. And I don't even have a lot of physical media, but I definitely own that one. It's one of my favorites. First of all, anything alien, I'm like, sign me up.
I'm a huge fan of M. Night Shyamalan. Almost everything, even the ones that other people don't like, I tend to like. His aesthetic is something I enjoy.
I like him too. I haven't seen Old, but it's not because of any reason other than laziness. Like I just haven't seen it.
Yeah. I haven't seen that one either.
That's the one everybody hates. Like I always hear like people freak out and they're like, "Oh my God, it was so bad." I'm like, "Well, I don't know. That doesn't sound right." Because he's usually pretty good about movies. I like his movies, but but yeah, no, the Sixth Sense was really good, and especially being so young when I saw it, the concept of the twist, like I remember not really understanding until because there's a realization, then the wife drops the wedding ring. And then she breathes and it's cold. And then, so I remember watching this going, what? Oh, okay.
Finally clicks. It's such a great click.
It is.
And then you run back through the whole movie in your head.
You do, because then you start thinking about, and I love that they made a point for the dumb young viewers that were watching it to go back through those moments, like when he meets her for dinner.
Yeah.
Because you just think they're just having like a troubled marriage.
Oh yeah, it's totally not obvious because I was watching it. I rewatched it for this conversation.
Yeah.
And I got my daughter to watch it with me, which I was super excited about so that's 2 on my top 5 we've watched together. And I was very paranoid that she was going to figure out the twist because she's, not a child. She's 15.
Yeah.
And she didn't figure it out.
It was well done.
She did ask me at the very beginning, after he was shot, and then it said like 6 months later or 1 year. I think it said 1 year later.
Yeah.
It shows him standing on the street. She said, "Oh, he survived," and I was like,
Yeah, because that's like somebody told me, I can't remember who it was. Somebody told me that before they ever got a chance to see the movie, the ending was ruined. And I was like, that's like
the worst ending.
The entire setup of the story is depending on you not knowing where it's going.
Yeah.
And then it like shows, I do some thinking about it. It's like, it shows him saying things like, and sometimes they don't even know they're dead. And you're like, how did he? It's almost like he made the entire movie like that wasn't going to be the case. And then last minute was like, oh, we'll make him dead. Like it didn't, like he did such a good job.
Then it worked. Yes.
Like,
I know. And it's like, that's just real talent. That's real talent.
I felt the same way when I watched The Village. I know people bitch about that one too, but
I like The Village too.
That's one of my favorites. I loved that one so. First of all, I'm a huge, massive Adrian Brody fan. Anything he's in, check.
I honestly liked that better than Midsommar.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I
like The Village better than Midsommar.
Yeah, I really liked it. Like I don't know, like I know we're not talking about that movie, but that one is so good. And when people talk bad about it, I'm like, you're just mean. Just me. Because it's like,
Taking it a little personal there.
I know there's a couple of them that are like that, but like that one, I'm like, I don't understand what people don't like about it. I guess I don't know, but it's just. But I guess that's the point, right? Is they don't
This
like
is
it
making me
because
want to
they have,
rewatch it.
oh, so good. I'm gonna have to
You have the
redo all
village?
this.
Oh no, you have to get the village.
Have to.
Yeah.
And then the other one I liked was, what is it? Lady in the Water,
Was it
the one with the pool and the wolf
Merman?
looking things, whatever it's got Bryce Dallas Howard in it.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know if it was called Lady in the Water, but
Something.
I remember liking that one too.
Yeah.
The things that were like in the corner of their eye and
Yeah.
yeah, that one.
I liked that one. It was different. It wasn't as like, as The Village and Sixth Sense, but it was still pretty, I thought it was still pretty good.
Yeah,
Pretty.
exactly. It wasn't as good as those other two, but and then didn't he do Pan's Labyrinth?
No. Pan's Labyrinth is Del Toro and
Del Toro. Okay.
I forgot who the other person was that he worked with for that one though. But yeah, no, that was Del Toro, and I cannot think of who the other person was, but I don't think it was M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. But aesthetically I can see, I can see that making sense though, just given kind of the storytelling and stuff. But yeah, no. Well, The Shining, Creep, Blair Witch, As Above, So Below, and Sixth Sense. And I'm fairly confident 3 of the 5 of those have not been on the show before.
Yeah. With a honorable mention for Rosemary's.
Of Rosemary's Baby. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because everybody needs to watch that one. I had to have one old movie. So
they're doing a prequel called, what's it called? Apartment something or loft. It takes place in the same building.
It's gonna be a hard
prior to that storyline. So I don't know 100. It's just been announced. I don't think it's been like, they don't. I don't know. We'll see, right? But
I'm gonna try not to be a poor sport about it because I usually I'm usually good with like remakes, and I tend to have an open mind about that stuff. Like I even was gonna give that new Exorcist a chance. Like,
yeah,
but I don't know. Prequel to Rosemary's Baby, like it's just
it's bold, right?
It's
That's
a little
different type of bold.
I don't want it messed with.
Yeah, that's yeah.
That is brave. That is very brave. We'll give him that. Brave.
We'll have to see, I guess. I mean, they just did the first Omen, but I'm not as like into the Omen. Like that one doesn't. I don't care as much.
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, I've seen it, but I'm not like emotionally invested at all.
No, but Rosemary's Baby is like a staple in my comeuppance and horror. So it's like, I don't know.
The acting and
I was surprised. I was like, of all the things, like, I don't.
I mean, if it gets more people watching the original.
And that, yeah. And that's usually.
Suspiria remake was good, and it made people watch
back and watch Suspiria. Yeah. That should be the goal of all remakes and continuations and requels and prequels. And if they get eyes on the original stuff, that's always a win.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, I think that is probably going to wrap up this episode of Influential Horror. Once again, all of Ruth Anna's stuff is going to be in the description of the episode, where you can find her, follow her content, get her books, buy her covers, all those fun things. And yeah, thank you again so much for coming on and talking. This was so much fun.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Yeah. Kat and Tasha said that we would have fun. They knew. They were like, oh, you're going to love talking to her. And I was like, I believe that.
That's sweet.
So, all right, cool.
They're both a lot of fun to talk to too.
Oh, yeah. I think it's like, I feel like it's kind of been the 4, even though like you and I don't talk as often, I feel like it's kind of been the 4 for a while.
4,
like,
yeah,
the 4 of us together. It feels like, because
we just need to expand our group chats.
I know, because I have one with Kat and Tasha, and I know you do too, because they reference it in our chat too, and they say things. I'm like, oh, okay.
We should just expand it.
For sure. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on this episode of Influential Horror. Hope you have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.